You can feel it, can't you? Something is slipping away. But it's not a person. It's not a job. It's not even a clear memory. It's a version of you. A self you've carried for years, maybe lifetimes, now unraveling without warning. No ceremony, no closure. Just a quiet, almost sacred release that no one else can see. And while the world keeps spinning, you stand still, watching the familiar fade, realizing that even your deepest attachments no longer have anywhere to land. You're not being punished, you're being prepared. Because what's leaving you isn't random, it's expired frequency. The roles you played to belong, the masks you wore to survive, the rhythms you repeated to feel safe. And now, they can't go with you. Because where you're headed, those energies don't exist. This isn't loss, this is liberation in disguise. But it doesn't feel like freedom, not yet. It feels like confusion, like disorientation, like grief without a clear name. And that's why you're here. Not to be fixed, not to be taught, but to remember what your body already knows. This is the sacred unraveling. And you're not crazy. You're not lost. You're just finally releasing what you were never meant to carry this far. This video is not a roadmap. It's a resonance, an echo of your own truth. And if you're feeling it, you've already started the journey back to yourself. You're not imagining it. The world didn't suddenly become unfamiliar. You stopped resonating with the field you used to call reality. That invisible energy, the one that kept your identity stitched together, that supported your routines, your relationships, your beliefs, it's been dissolving for a while now. But these kinds of shifts don't announce themselves. They creep in silently. They start by softening your attachment to the life you worked so hard to build. One day, you're moving through your to-do list. The next, you're standing in a room full of people you love and feeling completely alone. Or walking through your home and realizing it no longer feels like it belongs to you. This is not a crisis. It's a collective energetic thinning. The frequency scaffolding that once held the old version of you and the world you created from that version is coming apart. And here's why. Because you no longer need the density that version required. You don't need the same habits or the same rhythms or the same emotional contracts you unconsciously signed years ago. You've outgrown the template, and when that happens, the field begins to respond. Not with comfort, but with collapse. Not with clear steps, but with sacred static. It's why your intuition is louder, but your motivation is gone. It's why you're craving silence, but also grieving a version of yourself you never expected to lose. Because this isn't about fixing your life. It's about letting go of the energetic frequency that once held it all together. You're not being pulled apart. You're being released from everything built on compromise. And as the old field continues to fade, you'll feel lighter, stranger, and more real than you've ever felt, but only if you stop trying to hold together what's already leaving. Let's stop pretending this is a minor shift. What you're experiencing isn't just emotional, it's structural. A collapse is happening. Not in your calendar, not in your relationships, not even in your thoughts, but in your energetic code. And that code, it's what held everything together. The roles you played, the habits you repeated, the ways you coped, performed, achieved, endured. All of it. Now that code is breaking apart. Not because you're doing something wrong, but because your soul made a choice. I no longer agree to be held together by what I had to become to survive. And the unraveling began. Here's what that looks like. Waking up and not recognizing your own desires. Feeling disconnected from your routines, even the spiritual ones. Wanting to speak, but having no words. Grieving a version of yourself you don't even like, but still feel attached to. It's not dysfunction, it's resonance collapse. The frequency that once supported your false self is no longer being sustained by the field around you. And your body, your beautiful, loyal, protective body, doesn't know how to hold you inside this level of unknown. So it starts to fire off alarms. Anxiety, exhaustion, emotional numbness, restlessness, strange body symptoms that make no medical sense. Why? Because your nervous system was never trained to hold freedom. It was trained to hold roles, to adapt, to perform, to survive. Now that you're not performing anymore, now that you're not fitting into the boxes you built for protection, your body feels unsafe. Because to the old wiring, freedom equals danger. That's the paradox of this phase. You're becoming more yourself than ever before, but it feels like dying because everything that isn't you is being stripped away. And what's left? Silence, space, Stillness. And that stillness feels terrifying until you realize it's where your real self has been waiting all along. The part of you that never needed to explain itself, the part of you that didn't need to prove its value, the part of you that trusts the unknown more than it trusts old certainty. But here's the trap. In this space of dissolution, your mind will want to rebuild fast. It will grasp at old ideas, old plans, old routines, just to feel normal again. Don't fall for it, because anything you rebuild from fear of the void will just recreate the prison you're finally escaping. Instead, wait, breathe, let the system dissolve, let the grief move through, let the clarity return when it's ready. Because something deeper than identity is emerging. This is what real awakening looks like. It's messy, it's slow, it's not glamorous, and it doesn't come with applause, but it's pure, and it's yours. And it's already here, beneath the mask, beneath the fatigue, beneath the thought that maybe you've lost something. You haven't lost anything real. You've only lost the versions of you that were never fully alive to begin with. And now, you get to find out what's underneath, not by forcing, but by feeling, by listening, by letting go of the false comfort of certainty and surrendering to the wild intelligence of your own becoming. When you outgrow your old self, you don't get a warning. You get a feeling, a quiet ache, a silent pause, a soft detachment that says, this isn't yours anymore. But what follows that moment isn't clarity, it's collapse. Because before you can rebuild, your soul has to dismantle the architecture you once called you. This isn't linear. It doesn't follow logic. But it does move in phases, and if you can recognize where you are, you stop asking what's wrong, and you start trusting what's working. Phase 1, the static. It starts with subtle dissonance. You walk through your life, but feel like a visitor. Nothing is wrong, and yet nothing fits. You feel too sensitive, too disconnected, too detached from what once grounded you. This is the energetic crack, the moment your field begins pulling away from what no longer resonates. You're not crazy. You're not over it. You're moving out of alignment with distortion, and your body is the first to notice. Phase 2, the vanishing. Next comes the hollowing out. You begin disappearing from your own story. Your drive fades. Your desires quiet. You forget who you were trying so hard to be. Even joy feels far away. This isn't depression. This is soul space, the void between old identity and new embodiment. You're not failing. You're floating in a space that's asking for rest, not reaction. But the ego hates this part. It wants to fill the space, to fix the emptiness. Don't let it. Let the space do its work. Phase 3, the return of memory. With space, truth surfaces. You begin remembering, not just events, but how you abandoned yourself to keep things together. Suddenly you see the patterns, the roles, the energetic contracts you never agreed to consciously, and it stings. This phase brings grief, anger, clarity, but it also brings your power back because now you can finally say, that wasn't me, and I don't have to carry it anymore. Phase 4, the quiet fire. This is the re-entry, but not into the world, into yourself. You start making micro decisions differently, saying no faster, resting without guilt, speaking even when your voice shakes, holding silence even when others demand your performance. It's subtle, but powerful. You no longer orbit people, plans, or validation. You begin to live from an inner fire, soft, steady, sovereign, and the world responds, not with applause, but with mirrors that finally reflect who you really are. Phase 5, the return. This is embodiment, not the final stage, but the stable one. You don't wake up asking, what's wrong with me? You wake up asking, what's real for me today? You're no longer seduced by urgency, no longer chasing peak states, no longer arguing with the pace of your soul. You understand that alignment is not a feeling. It's a frequency you choose to live in again and again. And from that frequency, life simplifies. Your intuition becomes louder than your fear. You stop explaining your boundaries because they've become your baseline. You move slower, but everything comes to you faster. You've returned, not to who you were, but to who you never stopped being. Beneath it all. If you're in any one of these phases, you're not falling behind. You're falling inward, back into the self that remembers. And the self that remembers doesn't need to be fixed. It just needs to be heard, held, honored. You're not disappearing. You're finally coming home. You don't need to go faster. You don't need to figure it all out. You don't need to build the new life right now. What you need is to hold the field, to stay centered while the false self unravels, to ground the truth that's trying to take root inside you. This isn't about perfection. It's about practice. Because spiritual collapse doesn't respond to logic, it responds to containment. Below are 7 soul level tools to help you anchor yourself while everything you once called you quietly dissolves. 1. Reclaim your field before the world touches you. The first few minutes after waking are sacred. Don't waste them. Before the phone, before the thoughts, before the past rushes in, place one hand over your chest, the other over your solar plexus. Close your eyes. Breathe deep and say aloud, I return to myself. I release what no longer belongs to me. I allow this day to meet me in truth. This tells your nervous system, we are not repeating yesterday. We're moving from presence. 2. Let go of the need to be inspired. You don't need to be productive. You don't need to feel aligned all day. You don't need to look like healing. You just need to be real. This is not a time to force action. This is a time to allow emptiness, boredom, blankness, pauses that feel endless. These are not obstacles. They are integration chambers. Let yourself rest without needing to earn it, because your soul is recalibrating even when your mind is silent. 3. Replace old habits with one act of present integrity. You don't have to overhaul your life. You just have to stop betraying your body. Each day ask, where am I still living on autopilot? Then interrupt that pattern with one small, honest action. Drink water before coffee. Pause before replying. Say no without softening it. Speak what you're scared to say, but need to. These micro acts of alignment do more than any major leap because they rebuild trust between you and you. 4. Clean your space like it's your field. You can't evolve in a space that still reflects your old frequency. Audit your environment. What objects, clothes, subscriptions, digital files, or messages belong to a self you no longer are? What visual noise is keeping your nervous system looped in the past? Each day, release one item, just one. Clear a drawer, delete a folder, light a candle, open a window. Let your outer space reflect your inner clarity, because energy moves faster when it's not tangled in clutter. 5. Don't respond immediately to anything that feels frictional. You don't owe instant access to anyone. When something triggers, overwhelms, or tightens your chest, pause. Don't reply. Don't defend. Don't explain. Instead, ask, is this asking for a response or trying to pull me out of resonance? Let your silence be sacred. Let your space be strategic. Let your nervous system lead, not your guilt. 6. Close the day consciously. You can't integrate a new frequency if you go to bed carrying old noise. Each night, create a soft closure ritual. Sit upright, hands on your legs, eyes closed. Breathe. Say aloud, I release what is not mine. I call my energy back. I give myself permission to rest in peace, not performance. Then visualize your body glowing. See the residue of the day, conversations, thoughts, emotions, melting off you. Go to sleep not as escape, but as a portal of repair. 7. Speak from the timeline. You're becoming your words are architecture. They either rebuild the old or hold space for the new. So stop saying, I'm lost. I don't know who I am anymore. Everything is falling apart. Start saying, I'm returning. I'm remembering. I trust what's leaving. You're not lying. You're stabilizing your field because the nervous system listens and repetition becomes reality. These aren't just rituals. They're soul stabilizers. And right now, you don't need clarity. You need containers that can hold you while clarity forms. You need reminders. You need rhythm. You need space that says, I don't need to rebuild yet. I just need to stay with what's real. Because what's real now is not the version of you that's falling apart, but the self that's finally coming back online beneath it. Hold that self, not with strategy, but with presence. So here you are, not at the end of a video, but at the edge of a version of you that no longer needs to survive. You felt it, the unraveling, the softness, the ache that has no name, the fatigue that sleep can't fix, the sense that you're standing in the middle of your life and everything is subtly shifting beneath your feet. But you didn't run. You didn't numb. You stayed. And that right there is what changes timelines. Because while most people are trying to put themselves back together, you're doing something braver. You're letting yourself fall apart with integrity. You're letting the false self dissolve without rushing to replace it. You're holding space for a self that hasn't yet fully arrived, but already feels more real than anything you've been before. This is what becoming looks like. Not perfect, but present. Not clear, but honest. not complete, but ready. And the readiness isn't in your mind, it's in your field, it's in your stillness, it's in your refusal to rebuild what's already dying. So take a deep breath, feel your own presence. Let the truth you just heard land inside your nervous system, not as theory, but as remembrance. You don't need to go back. You don't need to speed up. You don't need to explain what's rising in you. You just need to stay, because what's coming next will not meet the old version of you. It will only recognize the one who stayed present during the fire. If this transmission echoed in your body, let the field witness it. Drop a comment below. What part of you is dissolving? What truth are you ready to hold, no matter who doesn't understand? What are you walking away from, not in fear, but in reverence? Your words don't just express, they stabilize the signal for others silently walking the same path. Share this video with someone who's in the void and doesn't know it yet. Not for views, for remembrance. Subscribe if you're not here for information, but for frequency. Because this space isn't just a channel, it's a field. A place where transformation isn't performed, it's embodied. So take one last breath, let what landed stay. And when you're ready, don't rush to rebuild, just begin walking as the real you.